Man, Sonic had a rough transition to 2D. Do you guys remember the 90s? Oh my god, guys, the 90s? I wasn't alive for them, but I remember them well. So well, in fact, that I remember the good old days of a certain blue rodent before the dark times. Before they added that third dimension. Blech. I just wish that the folks over at Sega remembered what the 90s were like, that they throw us a bone every once in a while and give us a tiny, tiny reference to the good old days of classic Sonic. And don't say Green Hill Frontiers, or Green Hill Forces, or Green Hill Mania, or Green Hill Generations, or Green Hill Chronicles, or Green Hill Adventure 2, or... In 2023, Sega released Sonic Superstars, a brand new entry in the classic Sonic series of games, following up the almost universally loved Mania, and what happened? Man, I remember when this game was announced. I don't know, I wasn't particularly captivated by it. For context, in 2017, Sega released a game called Sonic Mania, a love letter to the classic 2D side-scrolling Genesis era of Sonic games made by the fans, for the fans, and it was phenomenal! Oh my god, Mania was a hit critically and commercially, and with that, plus Sonic fans like myself absolutely eating it up, it seemed like a no-brainer to follow it up with another game in a similar style. Yeah, okay, we got Sonic Origins, which was a compilation of the first few classic Sonic games in the Mania engine, but I mean something new. Sonic Team and the Mania devs, who were independent of Sega at this point with their own studio named Evening Star, began talks of another classic Sonic game shortly after Mania's release, but these talks ultimately fizzled out and Evening Star went on to develop the game Penny's Big Breakaway, leaving Sonic Team to look elsewhere for a new developer, and they settled on a little game studio called Arzes. Alan Wonderworld, guys? Wait, you're serious? During the Summer Game Fest of 2023, Sonic Superstars was revealed to the world. The announcement trailer showed off a few things, like multiplayer, Amy Rose being playable, weird powers, Fang making a return, and what else? Oh yeah, it was utilizing 3D graphics, what? And the crowd went mild. They were just mildly receptive, weren't they just? I mean, I guess? Look, it could just be a me thing, but I really wasn't feeling this reveal. It wasn't that I was disappointed or that I was angry or anything of the sort, it just didn't grab me. The 3D graphics too were touted as one of the game's big selling points, advertising that classic Sonic was back with a brand new look. If you don't count Forces, or Generations, or all of the other 2.5D sections in the modern titles. I don't know, man. It didn't excite me, it looked quite generic, especially after Mania, but like the good consumer I am, I picked the game up on day one, and then put it down shortly after. Sonic Superstars was released on October 17th, 2023 for all major platforms at the time. The game cost $60 in the US, and a couple days later, we got Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So, pretty stacked week, and if you're not a Sonic fan, this would have completely slipped under your radar. Why release it then, and for that price too? That's not even taking into account the digital deluxe edition that features Lego outfits for the main cast and rabbit skin. Whatever, the rabbit skin was based on an old early design concept for Sonic, and it was cute. There's a few other costumes for some of the cast that are similarly cute, like the Christmas outfit for Sonic and some alternate costumes for Amy. The Lego outfits, on the other hand, are strange. They're not offensive in theory, they're actually quite cute, and I really dig them, but they're based on the real-world Lego Sonic minifigs that are, in turn, based on the modern designs of the cast, so you just have this weird hodgepodge of classic and modern aesthetics, and it's just, ugh. There's also a weird Shadow onesie for Sonic that's available, which was a tie-in promo for Sonic X Shadow Generation, so, I mean, I kinda get it, but it's still odd. Look, I get it's a nitpick, but it's just another thing that adds onto this game feeling really corporate. I'll be upfront, I love Sonic, it's one of my favorite things ever, and unless you do too, I would not recommend buying Sonic Superstars at full price. There's a lot of promise in the game, but it's held back by some really bizarre decisions that drag down the entire experience. I completely forgot about a lot of the things this game has going on, but was recently gaslit by the Superstars-inspired course in Sonic Racing Cross Worlds into thinking that this game was good. So, I've replayed it from front to back, start to finish, and well, buddy, let me tell you, about Sonic Superstars. This game is the epitome of mediocrity, man. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate it, like, it's fine, but that's all it really is. It's got some decently high highs, but at the same time, it's got some really low lows. To get it out of the way, I don't like the aesthetics. I'm not against classic Sonic in a 3D environment, it can work. Generations proved that, which came out 12 years prior to this one. My issue is, it just feels so safe, generic, and sanitized. Classic Sonic used to be cutting edge, he was cool, and Mania cemented that over a decade after the switch to 3D. In the years since this game came out, there's been some new details of Evening Stars concept for a Mania follow-up, and man, why couldn't they have gone with this art direction? Or like anything with a bit of spice rather than this corporate glob? I don't know, I understand I'm being harsh. I'm not knocking on the artists or the devs, but more so the general direction of the game as a whole. I love Sonic, I want the best for the series, and I want to see it thrive. So that said, something that feels good about the game, on the other hand, is just how good the game feels to control. There's a lot of people out there who are extremely specific about how they like classic Sonic to control, and I'm not one of those people, but I do understand when it's good and when it's Sonic Forces. This feels extremely accurate to the good old days. Momentum is an actual thing you have to work for and preserve as you go through a level. All of the characters feel great to control as well. They're pretty straightforward, but all have their unique abilities. Sonic can use the drop dash from Mania, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide and climb walls, Amy can double jump and use a hammer. It's all really solid. Speaking of Amy, this game marks the first, marks the first mainline classic Sonic game where Amy Rose was a playable character.
But what about Origins Plus?
Yeah, okay. On a technicality, as part of the Plus DLC for Sonic Origins, Amy was made playable in Sonic 1, CD, 2, 3, and Knuckles. It was honestly pretty neat, but that's kinda it. I just went, that's neat, and then didn't go back to it. She features heavily in Superstars, and I think it's cool. It's about damn time, honestly. Classic Sonic games were sorely missing playable female characters, and this game added not one, but two.
Spoilers!
Sorry. As part of the marketing for this game, Sega revealed a new character called Trip, this armored character who trips. She's later unmasked and is fully revealed as Trip the Sungazer and becomes a 5th playable character after you clear the main story, which we'll get to and I'll come back to it. But her kit is like a combination of Amy and Knuckles being able to double jump, but also climb walls. Each character has just enough of their own kit that warrants playing through the levels multiple times to grab secrets you may have missed, if that's what you like doing. There's a catch. If I may be nitpicky for 1 second, one of my favorite ways to play classic Sonic games is with Sonic and Tails together, where Tails follows you around and you can grab onto him and get to higher ground. It's nice, it's fun, it doesn't hurt anyone. Why can't I do it in this game? Is it because of... No, they wouldn't dare balance the game around co-op multiplayer! No! Yep, let's get this out of the way too. In its marketing, Sonic Superstars was heavily pushed as a couch co-op game for up to 4 players. This decision, I don't know, I don't like it. I can fully understand why though. At the time of its release, the de facto co-op platformer series that had reigned for forever was the new Super Mario Bros. Series, which on the Wii, Wii U, and Switch releases featured, you guessed it, 4-player couch co-op. As a franchise, I think Sonic is at its best when it's not trying to copy Mario, because when it does, you get things like Sonic Lost World. The problem with the co-op in this game isn't that it's there, but more so that it feels like an afterthought. The camera switches randomly between which character to focus on, and if one character falls behind, they're dead and have to respawn. If it happens during a boss, the player that goes off screen is just out of the game until the boss is beaten or all the other players die. Special stages, which we'll get to in a bit, are usually solo endeavors, but this game has a weird control switching mechanic that just feels tacked on. For a casual bit of fun, it's fine enough, but if you're playing with someone else or a group of friends who are all Sonic aficionados and you want to all give it your best shot, it's overwhelming and kind of feels like it goes against those core principles of the Sonic formula. If one of you hits a dash panel or gets a little too much momentum, it's over. When I played the co-op, we ended up just messing around and playing Leapfrog because that was more fun than fighting a camera. There's also competitive online multiplayer, which is abandoned these days and full of bots, but it's a collection of small objective-based minigames that have you participating in an elimination contest. It feels weirdly like it laid the groundwork for what would eventually become Sonic Rumble, or Sonic Rumble Party. I don't know what they're calling it these days. The Fall Guys one. The competitive multiplayer is another strange thing that was tacked onto this game, maybe to increase its perceived value. We may never know. But hey, you can play on Green Hill in this mode, and that's kinda neat, I guess. Oh, how I've missed it. The other big feature of Superstars was the idea of emerald powers. The Chaos Emeralds are a staple of the series, with you being able to collect originally 6, now 7 of them, and access bonus content, with Supersonic being the most obvious example of a reward for collecting them. They're big in the lore too, at times, and are pretty established in what they can and can't do. So in this game, they can do wild random things that they've never done before. It's like Sega looked at 2D Sonic, looked at 2D Mario, and said,
You know what we need? Power-ups.
So, for example, the blue emerald lets you spawn a bunch of clones, the green one lets you grow a big plant, the yellow one slows down time. They're all kinda useful. Keyword there being kinda. It's pretty situational, and because the emeralds are optional, there's never really any meaningful use of the powers. They don't feel like an evolution of the classic Sonic formula, they're just kind of there.
But what about the lore implications?
Oh yes, since this is a classic Sonic game and takes place in Sonic's earlier days, the emerald powers obviously aren't in games that are set later in the timeline. They're hand-waved away as being exclusive to this game's setting, the North Star Islands, with the area emitting mystical energy or something, so they can't be used outside of there. I don't know, man, it was explained in a TikTok. It's kinda dumb, but whatever. Speaking of the whole North Star Islands thing, let's take a look at that. One thing I really like about classic Sonic games is how striking and full of character the worlds are. In the 2D sprite-based games, there was so much there. The level design, the visual style, the soundtrack, the background art, oh man, it was really something special. Superstars, on the other hand, just doesn't feel like it's got that same level of source to it, you know? This game released for $60. That's the same price as Sonic Frontiers. That's the same price as Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm not an economist and I'm not about to debate game pricing, but I think the idea of it being positioned as a big old premium full price release, combined with the shift from 2D to 3D graphics, there's a lot more of an expectation there from an average consumer. I think the easiest way to go about getting to the bottom of why Superstars feels so mid is to just look at it from start to finish in accordance with the game's quote-unquote plot, if you can call it that. Classic Sonic games have never really been big on explicitly telling you a narrative, rather relying on storytelling told through its world and small character interactions like Knuckles in Sonic 3, for example. Superstars has a little bit more going for it plot-wise, which is largely due to a prequel comic and animation, an intro animation, and some animated cutscenes at the start and end of the game. Outside of that, the game has just more of those small character interactions. They feel weirdly out of place and cheap in this game. Is that just me? You know what? I think cheap is a great word for how I'm feeling about Superstars. Everything feels weirdly low budget. The animated cutscenes are gorgeous and charming, and I can't help but wonder if the game would be received better with more of them? I don't know. Anyway, Sonic Superstars takes place on the North Star Islands, a brand new locale for the series that is quite derivative of the rest of the series. It's like, come on, man. If you're gonna make a point out of setting the game in a whole new part of the world, why just copy what came before? Like, okay, look at this. Aesthetically, Bridge Island Zone is like Green Hill again. Sky Temple Zone is Sky Sanctuary again. Pinball Carnival Zone is just Carnival Night again. Sand Sanctuary is just Sandopolis again. I could go on. Now, dear viewer, you may be wondering, what are the unique features of the North Star Islands? Sure, yep, that's what I'm wondering. Well, you've heard of Pecky, right? Who hasn't? But have you heard of Giant Pecky? No. The big gimmick of this game setting is in its large animals. Giant Pecky is exactly that. Exactly what it says on the tin. A big old guy. Yeah, the lore of Superstars is like not very well telegraphed. From what I can work out story-wise, Eggman, or I guess he's still Robotnik at this stage, wants to make the big animals on the North Star Islands into badniks with the help of Fang the Hunter and Trip, who lives here. There's also a mural of some kind depicting what appears to be an egg and a bunch of guys that all look like Trip surrounding it, and Eggman wants something to do with it. So, Eggman's up to no good, and Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy travel to the North Star Islands to put a stop to it. Over the course of their adventure, they befriend Trip, they beat up Fang, they beat up Eggman. It's simple enough. Each level progresses you further into the world and usually ends in a boss fight where after you beat it, whoa! Ah! The plot is like serviceable, and in a classic era game, I wouldn't really expect anything more than what we got, but That shouldn't be an excuse for the way it's presented when the game is positioned as a big-ticket comeback for classic Sonic. Unfortunately though, it's a comeback that falls flat on its face at almost every point. The soundtrack for the game is a big mixed bag. There were so many composers on the game that, while yes, there were some bangers, the musical identity of Superstars is largely a jumbled mess. Too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. Was it a result of tight deadlines, a low budget? We may never know. The level design, arguably the most important aspect of a 2D platformer, feels really average. It starts off strong as well, with the first two zones being honestly pretty decent, which makes the eventual fall off feel that much worse. The later stages just feel slow and clunky, and the ideas they introduce just serve to further clog up your momentum and keep things moving slow. Thinking about the word slow when talking about Superstars, the most prominent thing that comes to mind is one of the biggest complaints with the game. At the end of almost every level, there's a fight against a boss of some kind. Not all are made equally. Some are inoffensive, sure, but others... Let me put it this way. Isn't it so annoying having to wait for stuff? I think the biggest issue with the bosses in Superstars is having to wait for them. I know, everyone thinks the same thing. Fork found in kitchen, whatever. So that's where they go. But listen, man, that's just what it is. These bosses suck, there's no sugarcoating it. So much of the fight is just spent waiting, whether you're waiting for an opening, waiting for them to charge up an attack, waiting for them to move to another location, for them to stop having invincibility frames after getting off a hit. This is not fun! I understand it's likely due to wanting to balance the game for the co-op so a team of 4 can't shred a boss in seconds, but why? I feel like all the forced waiting doesn't make it harder, or more engaging, or more rewarding when you do finally topple them, it just drags! The whole thing drags! Look, there's an argument for just playing the levels in the time trial mode to bypass the boss fights, but you'll never guess what you've got to do to unlock the time trials in the first place! You want to know a game that does boss fights well? What, Dark Souls 3? Dark Souls 3. Hear me out. The first boss of Dark Souls 3 is this freaky looking suit of armor that's pretty tough. You're free to just wallop on him till he goes down, but he's got a second phase, he's got a few attacks that can catch you off guard if you're not careful, but he doesn't feel unfair. It doesn't feel like it's the game throwing some impossible challenge at you. Yeah, it's a tough boss, but it plays to the strengths of the game well, rolling out of the way, hitting when there's an opening, etc. Now, I'm not suggesting the Sonic heads in the direction of the Soulsborne series, but rather that it takes a page out of its book and designs bosses that are challenging, yes, but fair. I'm not gonna lie, I just wanted an excuse to talk about Dark Souls. Some of the most egregious bosses in Superstars have you traveling on a floating platform waiting literal minutes between opportunities to pull off a hit with insta-kills galore. Dude, it feels like you are waiting for forever to beat these guys.
3 more hits to go.
And that's before we even consider the sickeningly BS final boss, or the final boss, or final boss. There's 3 of them. I guess now's as good a time as ever to talk about the progression of the game. To fully finish Sonic Superstars and get the true ending, you have to beat the game not once, but twice. And that second run is full of random, artificial insta-kill nonsense. And then, you also have to get all the Chaos Emeralds to access the final story. It's just, ugh. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Alright, let's start with the base campaign. It's straightforward. 2 main acts per level and an occasional bonus one. The bonus levels are sometimes restricted to a certain character, forcing you to play as them for the stage. Honestly, I don't hate this. It's straightforward. The levels themselves, as I've said before, are nothing to really write home about, but they get the job done. There's a few nice gimmicks in some of them, like the stealth segment in Press Factory, or the whole retro-inspired zone in Cyber Station. There are faint glimmers of potential during the game, like those ones, and like this really expressive animation for when someone gets frozen. Like, why couldn't the whole game be this lively? Anyway, to get the Chaos Emeralds, you gotta go on these special stages. Ugh. There's a bunch of different bonus areas in Superstars, and the special stages are found in these giant rings that are sometimes hidden, sometimes not. These stages are fine in concept, but in execution, it's just another thing that adds on to the whole death by 1,000 cuts thing that this game seems to love doing. So, special stage. It breaks away from the 2D side-scrolling and gives you a 3D environment to swing around in. You fall down towards the void and have to hit a homing attack on a nearby ball. You swing from ball to ball like a knockoff Spider-Man. Grabbing rings extends the time you have in the special stage. Sometimes there's mines, sometimes there's boost rings, but it's all in aid of chasing down the Chaos Emerald that's floating around like mad. Some of these stages, man, they're kinda headache-inducing. I think the one I had the most trouble with was the one in Lagoon City. It felt like the Emerald was so unpredictable and I just couldn't catch up. It took me a bunch of attempts, but eventually I got it and I was just so done.
It's not worth it.
Eventually, you get them all, you can go supersonic or use superpowers if you're anyone else. There's a cool moment actually where the Chaos Emeralds are taken off you, so you can't use the Emerald powers that you may have come to rely on. It's a neat bit, even if it only lasts for one level. Gotta take a win when you can, I suppose. But you eventually get to a big old space station, beat the level, and then run through it backwards, which I thought was really cool, and fight the final boss of the main story, a big ol' Eggman robot. What? And the crowd goes mild. It's a neat design, I guess, but it's weirdly difficult with some dumb BS moves. The timer also ticks down and carries over from the previous level into the boss fight, so I thought that I was gonna run out of time, but turns out that's just for show, and you can safely let the timer hit 0 without anything happening. It feels silly. Eventually, you beat it, you beat the campaign, and you unlock a second quest, so to speak. Going back to the menu, you see a new option for Trip Story, which takes place after the main plot, I think? I don't know. The whole appeal of Trip Story on paper is that 1, you only get to play as Trip, and 2, it's harder, in quotation marks. Yeah. Trip is cool and all, being able to double jump and climb walls and turn into a dragon that flies and spits fire and what? Why? What is the, what? It's her super form. And I'll be honest, it controls weird, but I used it to cheese a lot of the random crap this campaign throws at you. I don't feel like the difficulty is particularly fair either. It's not quite on the level of a Kaizo, if I understand that term right, but it is full of random insta-kills and beefier bosses, which means longer wait times, which means more time doing nothing, which means more time considering why you even decided to do this in the first place.
I like Sonic. I like Sonic. I like Sonic.
Trip as a character, based on what we've seen in Superstars and its supplementary material, is honestly really sweet. I like her interaction with Amy. I like her expressions. It's just, I just don't have the bandwidth to keep dealing with this. By the time I was approaching the end of Trip's story, my patience was wearing a bit thin. I couldn't really take another round of random crap thrown at me. I just wanted to beat a reskinned version of the main game's final boss and be done with it. And then the game hit me with a completely original final boss for Trip's story. What? For reasons, despite the fact you go through all of Trip's campaign chasing an egg robo, the final boss of her story is Fang the Hunter. Whatever, sure. He spits out these lasers that can insta-kill you. If you get to his second phase, he throws up these web things that can keep you stuck, allowing him to insta-kill you. I don't like this. He can smash apart your weird wibbly-wobbly floor. He throws down missiles and enemies. And you know, outside of the frankly dumb insta-kill mechanics, I think it's kind of neat that Trip gets her own unique final boss. After this experience, though, I maybe don't like Fang, okay? Maybe I have a little bit of a bias against him. But it's neat to see that Trip gets to wallop on Fang after he was pretty shocking to her for most of the main game. Was it fair? No. Was it fun? Also no. Did it take me multiple days worth of attempts? Next question. After beating Trip's story and rolling credits for a second time, we then unlock the final story. It's a pretty common trope for classic Sonic games with you getting all the Chaos Emeralds and then going to fight a big thing. It is one boss fight. It can't be that bad. Right? The true final boss sucks so much. It's so annoying. You want poorly telegraphed weaknesses? We got it. You want shockingly bad ring distribution? We got it. You want random insta-kills that set you back almost 10 minutes per attempt? We got that too. I don't get it. I don't get it. You boot into the last story and there's a big hole in the ocean and a huge dragon comes out of it. What? Where did this come from? I know there's like a mural of some kind that kind of hints at it in Knuckles' Golden Capital in the prequel animation, but it's such a small missable detail and it just comes out of nowhere. You're just thrown straight into it like, okay, I'll deal with it, yep, sure. So I looked at the Sonic Wiki for info on this thing and it says, and I quote, "Not much is known about the Black Dragon." Sick, love that. It's tied into the weird drawing that Eggman made at the start of the game, which is like, cool, I understand the foreshadowing, but I feel like we're missing crucial information here as to why it's just suddenly appeared. It doesn't make sense, it's just like a force of nature. How convenient that it happened to awaken just after the main story, and I presume Trip's story too, and we still had all of the Chaos Emeralds and are able to fight it. Speaking of the fight, it's so annoying. Look, it's part of the course with this game. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and it's just the cherry on top of all of the strange things this game has going for it. Prior to this run of Superstars, I actually didn't know that there was a true final boss. Neither did any of my friends. We'd all put it down way before, somewhere around the start of Trip's story, so this came as a surprise, honestly. Not really a welcome one. Supersonic obviously can't really take damage in a traditional sense, but you do lose rings for the whole fight. You can still die by either losing rings or falling into black holes, which you can escape from, but doing a dash uses up 10 rings, so try not to do that too much. Rings are super scarce for this fight, and while you can collect them from Knuckles, Tails, or Amy and Trip, it's so easy to miss them due to how much you're having to zip around trying to hit the boss. There's 3 phases to it, and while it's honestly less challenging than the final Fang fight in Trip's story, it's just so tedious. The boss fight takes like 10 minutes or more, and so if you die a few times, that's easily upwards of an hour's worth of attempts for one boss. In a Dark Souls game, that's whatever. In a Sonic game, that's bad. Eventually though, you do beat him, Trip seals him in a stone, egg thing, and that's it. That's the game. Look, I'm sorry if you like Sonic Superstars. I know I've bashed on it a lot here. The great thing about Sonic is that people love it, regardless of the quality of the games. I mean, one blunder certainly hasn't changed my opinion of the franchise, and you know, there is stuff to like about Superstars. It's just buried under a lot of small, seemingly insignificant annoyances that, when added up, really dull the entire product. At the end of the day, it's a fine game. It's fine, but it's just that. That's all it is. It's just fine. It's just okay. And like, yeah, but I wanted it to be better. I really did. Mania was such a step in the right direction for classic Sonic and kind of the series as a whole. Add on the movies, hell, add on Frontiers, and you had the perfect runway for an absolute banger of a 2D platformer to drop, cementing the classic style as a permanent part of the franchise's rotation. And then, like the character it introduced, it just tripped itself up and fell flat on its face. Wait a second. Trips, it's Trip. It's a metaphor. They knew all along. They can't keep getting away with it!